Hello everyone, I hope you had a great weekend. So this topic is about the fertility in the population, and on this this topic will be also included in the midterm exam. So please make sure to read over the textbook chapters assigned for the previous topics, including this one. And I will upload this lecture slide after my video, right after, because you should have this lecture slide for the midterm exam as well. So this part will be relatively shorter than other topics because my plan is minimizing the proportion of the calculation. So the initial plan was including more and more calculations using Excel, but I would ask you to do more interpretation instead of the calculation itself. So you may have some very minor calculations as you did before in the previous chapters of the topics, but I will not include many types of the very complex calculations by using Excel. I will show you, but I will not include that in the midterm exam or the quizzes. They will be a little bit of the small, but not very complex. All right. So the fertility. In the previous lectures, I mentioned that the population studies or the demography examines the population change and the population composition and other changes in the relationship and others. And you could see that the natural increase of the population was calculated as number of the births, usually the number of live births, and minus number of deaths. So the natural increase itself is a very simple format, so it would not include many of the types of the migrations or any other types of the fluctuations of the population changes. However, that will be very basic format impacting on the population changes. So still, this part will be the natural increase would be a very important part of the population changes. And again, the number of births, what we call the fertility, would be also the very big contributor of the population changes. So the most important factor of the population growth, not sure yet, but it depends on the whether that is a very more developed area or more developed regions or less developed regions. So we will talk more about that in the following lectures. So midterm exam, as you could see on the canvas, the menu is already published. The menu is already up, but it does not have the exam file. So the exam file will be posted on the Wednesday on 12 a.m., which is the beginning of the Wednesday, and that will be due on the Thursday this week, around right before the midnight. So you'd have 48 hours, around 48 hours. To complete this exam. So all the questions will be open-ended questions. So these will be not the multiple choice, or not the true and false, or not the matching questions, but these will be a kind of the short essay exams. Many of the class activities, you did two class activities, right? So most of the questions will be very similar. Not the same questions, but the format will be very similar with the class activities. Other than that, the range of the as I already wrote in the menu of the exam on the Canvas website, the exam range will be topic 1 through topic 6. The topic 6 is this one, the fertility, and what are others? So if you have any issues of the learning issues requires more time for the exam or assignments. So far, I did not get any of the notification about that. But if you have any documents verifying the extended time for the exam, please let me have as soon as possible so that I can apply the extended time for you. Other than that, so no makeup exam guaranteed unless you have very strong documents such as hospitalization or something. But usually the makeup exams are not very well guaranteed. So please make sure to turn in your midterm exam on time. I'd recommend you read over the textbook chapters very carefully, and watching lecture videos and the lecture slide. Yeah, as I asked you to do that for the weekly quizzes. So these will be very basic, very on the baseline level of the requirement for the midterm exam. So anytime if you have any questions about the exam, please let me know as soon as possible, so that I can answer you as soon as possible. Alright, so as I already explained that, so I will move to the next one. So total score 100 points. Short writings, the essay questions, I would ask you about 1 to 2 paragraphs. And this is an open book exam, but no collaborations. Any kind of the collaborations are not allowed for this exam. So as long as you do your own work, make your own answers, not copying others and not copying the resources out of the internet. You can search internet, but please do not copy everything unless you have the very clear citations of that. Alright, so these are mostly about that, so let me move that. Alright, so this is an example question, so you can refer that. Alright, so the birth and population, birth of the population, which is not the stopping of the life, but that is the birth is the beginning of the life. So usually on the birth, the childbearing, and those kind of the fertilities, these are relevant with the very good news in many cases or some cases. However, for some cases, those kind of fertility or the pregnancies or the childbirths are not always very good news, because sometimes there are some unwanted pregnancies, and there are the unwanted childbirths because of the timing. What we say, you may have, for example, you may have your own schedule in your future plan or your career plan. But if we have some kind of the unexpected pregnancy or the unexpected births, that will be very tricky, because that will be very hard to manage for your career plan or others. Or if you already reached your ideal family size, or if there was caused by the failed the contraception or others, so there will be many issues we can imagine as the cause of the unexpected pregnancy or unexpected births. So there is a very big data, and very huge data in the United States, what we call the General Social Survey. And there is a very long-standing question asking, what do you think the ideal number of children for your family to have? So in case you will form a family in the future, or if you already form a family in your life, what would be the ideal number of children? So you may, if you are in the if you are in the face-to-face class format, I would ask you what would be the ideal number of children for you. And these were asked many of the adults in the United States, and these are the distribution of the from 1972 to 2021. So I said this is very big data. And this is a mean ideal number of children of the family, which means I calculated the average of those numbers, a weighted average of those numbers, and the ideal number of the family. So that's very surprisingly, that was about a little bit more than 3, but eventually, after 1999, there was about 2.7 or something. But after 2000, it raised up to the 3, and there was a rip up over the very high after the COVID-19. But I'm not sure it was caused by the better quality of the data or some caused of the right after the disaster like COVID-19, because there are some types of the explanation that. So the attachment theory, which means after the disaster or after a very massive impact of the macro level of the society, the macro level issues, the people wanted to have more attachment, more involvement in the family. So after the disaster, they are more likely to have the marriage, or they are more likely to having the high levels of the fertility. So we can explain in these ways, but it is not very clear, because we cannot find some causality between this kind of the chaotic events of the society and the fertility, because we are not sure the newborn babies or the new parents are vividly impacted by the chaotic events of the COVID-19 to determine the birth, their intensity, their intentions of taking the births. So we are not sure about the very details, but we can explain by using this theory. All right, the fertility rate of the children per woman. What we say the total fertility rate, I will cover a little bit later. So this is the number, the expected number or the number of the child or number of children, because usually it's higher than one. This is a total number of the children expected to have of a woman in that country. So a long time ago, it was about 4.86. It means that average woman in the world were expected to have about 4.86 children in their life. So it's decreased down and more. So the world level, it's now recently 2.35. Yeah, very as expected. And this is the fertility rate, and this is also the fertility rate, and we can see the fluctuations more and more. So early 1900s, 1900s, and going to the 2000, and we can see that the numbers are getting lighter and lighter, which means the lower number of the children. So except some of the regions like Latin America, this is only 2. So some of the regions of the Africa, mostly around 2 would be the total fertility rate, which is the expected number of the children of the average woman. So world population by the level of fertility over time. So we can see that the Yemen, the country share the world population, but the high level. This is the number of the children per woman. As I said again, total fertility rate. The Yemen is very small country, but very, very high levels of the total fertility rate. Okay, so there are many others, so we can check it later when you have more time. So too high fertility, which means the too many births. So it means that in some part the resources are short, which means if there are too high fertility, as Malthus and Thomas Malthus worried about, if there are too high fertility rate, it means there would be the chances of having very, very low levels of the resources, because we have the limited amount of the resources on the earth, and we need to share those limited level of the resources with the more people. So that will be the one cause of the concern. However, if there is too low fertility, which means there is very low levels of fertility and no more births, that will mean the human extinction. I will post one YouTube video not created by mine, which is the trailer of the movie, and that was assuming that there was no more births, but there was a kind of very some kind of hidden situation. Then some people had the births. So it's better for you to watch the video. But the human extinction would be caused by the zero fertility, not only the war situation or the high levels of the disaster by the climate change or something. So there are three major measures of the fertility. The first one is the crude birth rate, the number of the live births per 1,000 people, not the woman. Again, number of births per 1,000 people. That is crude birth rate. Age-specific fertility rate means based on the age-specific group. They could be 25 through 30, and this fertility rate would be calculated by the age-specific rates. And total fertility rate would be, as I mentioned before, just 2 or 3 slides before, that is the number of children per woman, expected number of the children per woman, whatever. But that is the average. That's the average expectation of the number of the children of the woman in that country or in that society. Alright, so I will continue my lecture in the next video.